I'm in my close reader today on page 28. Please grab your close reader and a pencil so that you can annotate along with me as we read My Dragon Wasn't Feeling Good. This text is written by one of my most favorite poets, Jack Prelutsky. He has really funny poems, and most of them are end rhyme poems. And so this one is as well, and that's something we're going to be looking for. We're also still working on our strategy of visualizing as we read. Remember, that's those moving pictures in your head, but not just pictures. We're also thinking about what we hear, what we would smell, what we would taste, what we would feel, those kinds of things as well. So let's go ahead and get started. My dragon wasn't feeling good. He had a nasty chill and couldn't keep from shivering. I saw that he was ill. His eyes were red and watery, his nose was running too. His flame was but a fizzle, and his cheeks were pallid blue. I took him to a doctor just as quickly as I could, a specialist in dragons, and she's in our neighborhood. She took his pulse and temperature, then fed him turpentine and phosphorus and gasoline. My dragon's doing fine. Okay, so a couple of things here. The author, Jack Prelutsky, uses a lot of really good descriptive words to help us visualize. So I want to annotate some of those because I'd like for you as writers to take note of that so that when you're writing, you can also use really descriptive words to help your readers visualize. So some of those are, let's see, nasty chill. Shivering was one. I could visualize that, right? You could see the dragon almost shaking. His eyes were red and watery, okay? And nose was running. Remember when we talked about showing instead of telling? Jack Prelutsky doesn't just tell us that his dragon doesn't feel good and stop there, right? He shows us through the chills, the shivering, red and watery eyes, nose running, right? He also says that his flame was but a fizzle. So imagine that flame coming out was just a teeny tiny flame, right? Because he wasn't feeling very good. And his cheeks were discolored. They were kind of bluish. So those all give us a really good visualization of what this poor little dragon was looking like. And then down here, I want to talk a little bit. There's some big words in this. It says that he took him to the doctor as quickly as he could. And what she does is she takes his pulse and temperature, right? And that's kind of what happens when you go to the doctor too. Probably they check those things. But this does not happen when you go to the doctor. They fed him turpentine, phosphorus, and gasoline. Now, you probably aren't familiar with turpentine or phosphorus, but you probably have heard about gasoline. And these are all types of gases that are going to help make a fire bigger. And so we know that his flame is a fizzle, right? And so the medicine that she's giving him are actually these gases that are going to help his flame get bigger so he can start feeling better. So I just wanted to point that out because those are kind of tricky vocabulary words there. All right, so let's go ahead and look now at our end rhyme words. So I'm going to go through some of those with you in the first paragraph, and then I'm going to have you go through the second on your own. My dragon wasn't feeling good. He had a nasty chill, circle chill, and couldn't keep from shivering. I saw that he was ill. Ill and chill, those words rhyme. His eyes were red and watery, his nose was running too, his flame was but a fizzle, and his cheeks were pallid blue. So too and blue are our end rhymes there. And notice here, look, no rhyme, rhyme, no rhyme, rhyme, no rhyme, rhyme, no rhyme, rhyme. So there's a pattern going on there. Well, you look through and circle your end rhyme words in this paragraph for me. Okay, so hopefully you found could and neighborhood, Now those aren't spelled the same, kind of like to and blue, right? They don't have the same letters, but they have the same ending sound. Same thing here, O-U-L-D and O-O-D have the same sound. Turpentine and feeling fine. Those do have the same end rhyme, which is I-N-E, I-N-E. All right, let's look over now at two men and a bear. One day, two men strolled down a trail. "Look, a bear!" shouted the first man. He quickly scampered up the tree. "I'll wait here." The second man dropped to the ground, curled into a ball, and pulled his coat over his head. "I'll make the bear think that I'm asleep." So these characters have reacted very differently to the same challenge, right? The same challenge is that we've got a bear. And one of them climbs up the tree and says, "I'll wait here." And the other one is going to pretend like he's asleep down on the ground. It says, the bear went up to the man on the ground. He gently pawed away the coat. Then he whispered in the man's ear and lumbered down the trail. What? The bear whispered in his ear? Interesting. When the bear was gone, the first man climbed down the tree. "What did the bear say to you?" he asked. The second man rose and brushed off his clothes. "You showed your true colors today," he said. "The bear told me I should think twice about traveling with friends who run off in times of trouble." Okay, so let's talk a little bit again about the visualization from this text. We can see that there's lots of words that help us to visualize what's happening. One is that they are strolling down the trail, right? You can picture that, just kind of a calm walk. That's a good descriptive word to use instead of just saying walk, right? They're strolling down the hill. It also says that the bear gently pawed. Can you picture that? Maybe you have a pet at home that paws at you when it wants your attention. That's what the bear is doing, right? He's pawing at the coat of the guy who's pretending to be asleep on the ground. And then not all of our visualizations are what we see, but this one is actually what we hear, and it talks about how he's whispering in the man's ear, right? And you can picture or hear in your visualization what that would sound like, right? Him whispering. And then I really like this word, he lumbered down the trail. So that's quite different, right, than strolled. Stroll is says something similar, right? Means something similar, but stroll is more of a chill walk, right? If you're just strolling, you're not really too worried about where you're going or getting there super fast. Lumbered is definitely a heavier, more intense walk than stroll. So those are the shades of meaning, right? A little bit different from each other, even though they mean very similar things. So I'm going to underline lumbered as well. Okay, so this is a fable, and a fable means that we learn a lesson from this text. And the lesson is often found at the end of the text, and that's where we find it here. So let's reread paragraph 5. The second man rose and brushed off his clothes. "You showed your true colors today," he said. "The bear told me I should think twice about traveling with friends who run off in times of trouble." So the lesson he learned was think twice about traveling with friends who run off in times of trouble. And what he means by that is, do you want to be friends with someone who's going to leave you on the ground by yourself and run up a tree? Or do you want to travel with a friend or spend time with a friend who will stay by your side and fight together and stay with you, right? And so he says he should think twice about being with someone who's going to run away instead of helping out. Our illustration here really helps us to understand what's going on, and it's always a good idea to look down at your illustration because often this is one of the more important parts of the story that they want to highlight. And this one really gives us a good idea of where each guy is in the story, so that we can help ourselves to visualize what was going on there. Okay, so now that we've annotated our 2 stories, I'd like for you to go into schoolwork and fill out the activities that go along with these.